Hi everyone, welcome back. Are you ready for another week of our program? We are going to be adding another food group this week, fats. And at the end of this week, you're going to have finished not only the first third of the program, but you're also going to have completed the 4 corners of really the foundation of this plan, which is your fluids, your veggies, your protein, and your fats. And with those 4 corners, you're going to have a really solid foundation to build from here. It's really important that you understand that, because with the upcoming weeks in the program, there's going to be some more challenging changes and activities that I'm going to ask from you. And without these 4 corners in place, it's going to be really hard to achieve those. So this is really the base of our program, and I want you to embrace that as such, okay? So before we move on and talk more about fat, let's go ahead and review this last week on protein and how did that go for everyone. So you had 3 tasks to complete. Your first task was to figure out how much protein should you be shooting for each day. Are you falling within your target? Are you over your goal, under your goal? You know, just to get kind of a sense of if you're meeting your goal or not. Then your second task was to make sure that you were including a protein at every meal, ideally, and to rotate through your different proteins each week. And that could be challenging maybe for some of you. If you're used to always eating meat or always eating chicken, right, or always eating dairy, it might be challenging to mix it up. But that was part of your goal for the week. The third task was to record how you did. How many days did you meet your goal? How did your week look? And just to kind of take some assessments on how it fell out. Thank you for those of you that were on the Facebook group this week. I felt like there were some really good comments and questions that came up, and I want to take just a few minutes to touch on those. 3 things kind of stood out to me the most. The first is thinking about portions, and I've sort of deliberately not talked about portions yet. You know, I think that in traditional diet plans, it's a lot about counting calories and tracking portions and really measuring what you're eating. And although this absolutely has some value, I don't want to say that it doesn't, I also think that we're not doing a diet, right? We're really looking for the long game here. Like, we're making long-term lifestyle changes, which means you're not always going to be measuring out and calculating what you're eating every day. So the fact of, eyeballing your proteins versus measuring them out, I'm really leaving that up to you. I want you to be aware of how much you're eating and if it's an appropriate amount or not for you. So for maybe at first it would be helpful to measure it and really feel clear about, what does 3 ounces of protein look like, or what does 20 grams of protein look like, right? Once you feel comfortable with that, I absolutely don't expect you to continue to track that. So I thought that was a really good kind of comment question that came up this week, and I just wanted to make sure I touched on it a bit. The other really valid concern, frustration comment that came up this week is that you're not seeing the weight loss you were hoping for. And I know how hard that can be. I really do. I know how frustrating that is when you're putting in good effort and you're sticking with the program and you're doing the best you can and you're not seeing a shift in your body. And the only thing I can say to that is that, again, we are looking to the long term, right? We are only 3 weeks into a 12-week program. And if it only required, 2 or 3 changes, this would be a 2 to 3 week program. It wouldn't be a 12-week program. So unfortunately, it's really forcing you to maybe go outside of your comfort zone and live in that place of patience and uncertainty and trust, in that once you build on each of these weeks and really start to make this your new lifestyle, your body is absolutely going to respond. I have no doubt, no concern in that for you, but it is going to require your perseverance and your patience, okay? And in your trust that each of these pieces builds on the other, and in so doing helps your body shift, right? Because we're not just talking about trying to lose fat, we're really talking about trying to shift your metabolism to a place where you can naturally stay at a healthy weight, even with the ups and downs of your diet and life, okay? So I know it's hard. I know it's frustrating. And all I can say is to please trust and to please stick with it and know that in the long term, your body will absolutely respond, okay? The other thing that came up this week was just life, right? I mean, I feel like many of you have been sick. Many of you have had some challenges come up, some distractions that have come up that are getting in the way of you really putting all of your focus on this program. And all I can really say to that is that this is real life, right? We're not doing this program in a vacuum. I'm not putting you in a lab for 12 weeks and completely changing your lifestyle. You're doing this in real life, and there's absolutely going to be challenges and stress and illness and things that come up that are going to take your attention away from yourself. And that's really part of the practice, is how do we learn to adapt these changes and to create a healthy foundation that's going to support us even with the ups and downs of life, right? So all of that to say to, again, please be gentle with yourself, right? Be patient and know that it's not always going to be easy and it's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. Because even just having this awareness in your head, even if you're not meeting your goal every day or even any day, the fact that you're thinking about it and you're trying is getting you closer, right? And that's going to be different than where you were 3 weeks ago. So I want you to just take that, I guess, with a grain of salt and know that I'm not expecting you to be perfect, and I certainly don't want you to be expecting that of yourself, okay? The last thing I want to mention before we move on to fats is to ask, how did hydration go this week? How did your veggies go this week, right? We're building on these weeks. This is already your 3rd week of hydration. Remember, it takes 21 days to create a new habit. So if you've been really consistent and persevering with your hydration, perhaps it feels kind of second nature now. Perhaps it feels like it has become a new habit. And if so, fantastic. If not, don't worry about that. It will. Just stick with it, okay? Keep tracking, keep recording, keep holding yourself accountable until it feels like second nature. Same thing with the veggies. This is your 2nd week of veggies. Hopefully that felt a little easier to be part of your meals. And I would encourage you, as we move into fats, to keep tracking those, keep working with those unless they are starting to feel like they're easy breezy. And then in that case, no need to keep tracking it. So I'm going to leave that up to you to decide how much accountability do you need from those worksheets with each of the previous weeks, okay, as we keep building. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a closer look at your tasks for this week about including more healthy fat into your diet. Okay, so your first task for this week, if you haven't done so already, is to read the chapter on fats and to become really familiar with the lists that I have in there regarding which fats are good and healthy for you and which fats are not. The fats that you want to be focusing more on, and then the fats that you want to be either really cutting back on or maybe even avoiding completely. And I have a list of some of them there on your slide, but I give you a lot more detail in the book. And I want to take just a moment here to talk about what I think is probably going to be the biggest challenge for many of you, is the years of misunderstanding we have around fat. And only maybe in the last decade or so has research even started to shift that discussion. So it's like the trickle-down effect to the consumer is going to take much longer. I think it is becoming more widely discussed nowadays, but trust me, when I'm working with clients and I see those of you who have spent years often on diets, right? Years tracking calories, taking into account everything you're putting into your mouth, trying to avoid fat, eating low fat and non-fat, it is really, really hard to shift this thinking into that fat is actually good for us and that we need to be eating fat. So I just want to say, I get that. That is a real fear. I hear that every day from people. So I know this is not going to be easy. And if you've been avoiding fats, it's going to be hard. But I want to tell you, and hopefully the chapter in the book supports this as well, the truth to all of this is that you need fat to lose fat. And if you're not getting enough of the right kinds of fats, your body is not going to let go of what it has stored up. And that's the truth, okay? So your challenge this week is to kind of work through the fear and to start eating more fat, to buy whole fat things, right? The low fat, the non-fat, that is more processed. That is less good for you, right? They often replace fat with sugar. That is not food I want you to be eating. I want you to be eating the real deal, the right kinds of fats, okay? The anti-inflammatory fats, grass-fed animal foods, whole fat, fish, avocado, nuts and seeds, right? Coconuts, coconut oil, olive oil. These are the fats that your body's craving. So your first task is to, I would like to say, get comfortable with this idea. And for some of you, that might be possible. And for others of you, I'm going to say to accept that this is going to be a challenge and that your goal this week is to work through the fear and to really start embracing some of these fats into your diet and not worrying about the calories, okay? And I speak to this in the book, so please read that. And if any questions or concerns come up around this, please let's talk about it in the Facebook group, because this is a really important piece. Without fats, proteins, and veggies, right, your body is not going to start to shift metabolically. We need all three of these things. Okay, let's move on to our second task. All right, your second task for this week is to clean out your pantry, okay? So what I want you to do is go through your pantry this weekend, maybe before you go to the grocery store, so that you can replace any rancid oils or any of the oils that are on the avoid list in the book, okay? Again, so pull out your book and use that as a reference and get rid of those oils, okay? There's no point in using them if they are bad for you or if they've gone bad. And then replace them with some of the healthy oils, some of the other cooking oils that I have on that list. So one of your tasks this week then is going to be trying to use the right cooking oil for the job, right? So for whatever heat you're using. And this is a really important one because you could start with a really healthy fat, right? With a lot of good benefit. And as soon as you cook it higher than its smoke point, it starts to burn. It starts to oxidize. And then when you consume that oil, it's no longer a healthy oil for you. Then it becomes an inflammatory oil, and it becomes toxic in your body. So it's really important that we pair the right oil with the right cooking temperature and with the right storage, right? So you want to keep it in a cool, dark, dry place. You want certain oils, once you've opened them, are going to stay fresher in the fridge. Some of those oils would be flax, walnut, avocado, sesame, hazelnut. So you want to make sure that you're storing them properly, that you're using them up, right? So that they're not there too long and going bad, and that you're cooking at the right temperature. Your third task is to come up with a plan for the week, to come up with a daily plan. So how are you going to include some type of healthy fat at each of your meals? Sometimes this goes right along with the protein, like the fish there, right? That's got your protein and your fat. You don't necessarily need to add an extra fat to that meal. You could, but you don't have to. Sometimes the protein might be separate from the fat. So if you're having, let's say, chicken with your meal, even though that has some fat in it, you're going to want to add some extra fat to that meal. So I want you to kind of think through a plan of how can you make sure you're getting some good fat every time you eat. And then, as with everything, how do you mix it up? How do you get some variety? If you're already using olive oil all the time on everything, can you add in some different fats, right? Because every fat has a different set of health benefits. So the more variety, the more you take advantage of those benefits. I might challenge you, if you haven't tried it yet, is to maybe give the homemade salad dressing a try. That recipe is in the back of your book, and that is a great anti-inflammatory dressing, and you could use that on your salads and your veggies this week. If you are already making that dressing or some version of that dressing, awesome, please keep doing that. And then think about another way you could add in a different kind of fat or a new kind of fat this week. So that's task 2 and task 3. Then we move on to your fourth and final task. To pull up your worksheet, use that to record your plan for the week and then to keep track of how you do each day, okay? So let's go ahead and just kind of wrap all that up for the week. So just to review, we've got your 4 tasks, right? So you're going to clean out your pantry, first and foremost. You're going to get rid of any bad fats, any rancid fats. You're going to hopefully replace them with healthier fats at the grocery store this week. You're going to make a plan to use the right oil for the right job this week regarding your cooking plan. Your second task is to come up with a daily plan to make sure that you're getting some kind of healthy fat at each meal, and that ideally you're trying to rotate through different fats over the course of the week, maybe even trying a new kind of healthy fat that you haven't tried before. Push yourself a little bit outside of your comfort zone, okay? And then your final task is to use your worksheet and record how you're doing. Keep in mind that we're still working on hydration, we're still working on veggies, we're still working on protein, so please keep tracking all of those things, unless any of them have become easy breezy, and then you don't have to worry about tracking that one anymore. Remember to check your weight once a week, ideally, not every day. It is going to change a lot day to day, particularly if you are having any hormonal shifts, okay? So track it on the day and time that you had already decided for yourself, so you see week to week how it's looking. It gives you a good average for the week. And as always, please share with the Facebook group. Some of you are sharing more than others. I really appreciate that. And I know it's not always easy to get on there and to be vulnerable, really, to open yourself up. But the more we can support each other, the more we can ask questions and get answers to our questions, the more successful we're going to be. So please try to get on there and post at least once a week, if not a couple times a week. Comment, look and see what other people are posting, and just really use that as much of a support network as you can. All right. The other thing I want to say to that is, because we're almost a month in, at the end of this week we'll be a month in. If any of you are really struggling, maybe you've fallen behind, maybe it's been much more challenging than you thought it would be, you're feeling stressed out and anxious about it, please reach out to me by email. You don't necessarily have to divulge that in the group if you don't want to, but please let me know. I need to know that if I'm going to help you, okay? If that's going on for you, we might even want to schedule just a quick phone check-in and see if we can talk it through, and if there's a way to kind of bring you back into the group and help you start seeing some success. So let me know, okay? It's really important that you communicate that with me. And along those lines, I have one last question I want to ask you guys. Because we're going to be a month in, and basically a third of our program will be done, I'm wondering if it might be helpful to even schedule a live Facebook call, like do a live Facebook and with some Q&A that we could make sure that in real time we're addressing any questions, any lingering concerns, anything that we need to kind of wrap up before we move on to the next stage of the program. If that's something you think might be helpful, I am absolutely open to doing it. I think the challenge will be to find a time that's going to work for everybody. So I'm going to propose a time, and then you guys let's talk about it on the Facebook group. Tell me if it's something that you want and if it would work or not for you. I'm thinking because during the work week, everybody's schedule is so different, it might be more challenging. So I was wondering maybe next Saturday morning, doing a Facebook Live, if that would work for you guys, maybe around 9-ish. I have to kind of factor in my 9-hour time difference. So let's talk about it in the group. Tell me if you like that idea, if the time works. If you don't like the idea, no problem. We don't have to do it. I just want to make sure I'm supporting you guys as much as I possibly can so that we all get the success out of the program that we want to see. That's it, you guys. Good luck this week. Until next time, happy eating.